What would you do if you found out the person you loved had been lying to your face from almost the very beginning? Not just a small lie, not just a mistake. A full, deliberate, calculated double life. Discovered at the worst possible moment, most people would fall apart. Most people would cry, shut down, and spend weeks trying to piece themselves back together. But not her. She didn't just walk away. She didn't just move on quietly. She crafted one of the most satisfying, most perfectly executed revenge stories the internet has ever seen. And she did it all within 24 hours of finding out the truth. This is the story of a woman who went from devastated to dangerous in the time it takes to finish a shower. And by the end of this video, I guarantee you're going to be standing up and applauding. Stay with me, because this one is special. Let's go back to the beginning. Because to really understand just how satisfying this revenge is, you need to understand exactly how good everything seemed before it all came crashing down. She had been dating this guy for almost a year. Nearly 12 months of what she believed was a genuine, loving, committed relationship. They had built something together, or at least, that's what she thought. They had inside jokes, shared memories, late-night conversations, and real emotional intimacy. From the outside, they looked like a perfect couple. And after nearly a year together, he finally did something that felt like a major milestone. He invited her to meet his family. Now, if you've ever been in a serious relationship, you know what that moment means. Meeting the family isn't casual. It's not something people do lightly. It's a statement. It's him saying, "You matter enough to me that I want the most important people in my life to know you exist." It's a sign of commitment, a sign of a future. A sign that things are getting serious in the best possible way. And he didn't just invite her over for a quick dinner. He invited her for Thanksgiving. One of the most intimate, family-centered holidays of the entire year. A holiday built around togetherness, gratitude, and the people you love most. She packed her bags and she went. And honestly, it started beautifully. She arrived and his family welcomed her with open arms. Thanksgiving dinner was everything it should be: warm, loud in the best way, full of laughter and great food. His parents were kind. The atmosphere was comfortable. She felt included. She felt welcomed. She felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. She went asleep that night genuinely happy. Content, hopeful, maybe even a little bit in love. She had no idea that happiness had an expiration date of less than 12 hours. The next morning started like any normal morning. The kind of slow, peaceful morning that only happens when you're staying somewhere new, and there's nowhere you have to be immediately. Her boyfriend got up and headed to the shower. She stayed in the room, relaxed and unbothered, and then his phone started buzzing. Now listen, she wasn't snooping. She wasn't going through his messages or looking for trouble. The phone was just right there on the nightstand or the dresser, screen lighting up over and over again. Calls, texts, buzzing repeatedly, one after another. She glanced over. Not because she was suspicious, just because it was impossible to ignore. And that one glance changed everything. On the screen, visible without even unlocking the phone, was a text message from an unsaved number. No name, just a number. And the message read, "Baby, I miss you." She stared at it. Time slowed down for just a second. Now, at this point, a lot of people would try to talk themselves out of what they were thinking. They'd say, "Oh, maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's a family member using a different phone. Maybe there's a perfectly reasonable explanation for this." A lot of people would put the phone down and try very hard to unsee what they just saw. She didn't do that. She picked up her own phone. She dialed the number. And she waited. A woman answered. And here is where the story goes from uncomfortable to absolutely gut-wrenching. Because this woman on the other end of the line, she didn't play games. She didn't make excuses for him. She didn't hang up or pretend not to know what was going on. She told her everything. Every single detail. The two of them talked, and the full picture came into focus. This man had met this woman at work. And from the very moment he met her, he had presented himself as completely and totally single. No girlfriend, no commitment, No relationship of any kind. He hadn't just met this woman after he and our storyteller started dating. He had started pursuing her around the exact same time he and our storyteller got together. Meaning from almost the very beginning of their relationship, while he was putting in the effort to build trust and emotional connection with her, he was simultaneously pursuing someone else. Entirely, and presenting himself to that woman as a free man. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This wasn't a drunken mistake or a one-time lapse in judgment that spiraled out of control. This was a choice. A deliberate, calculated, ongoing choice that he made every single day for nearly a year. He had looked her in the eyes, over and over again, and chosen to keep lying. She hung up the phone. The shower was still running. She sat there in that guest room, in his parents' house, surrounded by the warmth of a family that had welcomed her just the night before, and she felt the ground disappear from underneath her. The devastation hit first. Because no matter how strong you are, finding out that someone you genuinely cared about has been deceiving you from the very beginning, that hurts in a way that's almost impossible to describe. It's not just heartbreak. It's a complete rewriting of everything you thought was real. Every memory you had together suddenly has a question mark over it. Every sweet moment, every kind word, every time he looked at you like you were the only person in the room, all of it now lives under a cloud of doubt. But the devastation didn't last long. Because right behind it came something else entirely. Disgust. Cold, clear, focused disgust. Not just at what he had done, but at how long he had done it. At how easily he had smiled and laughed and held her hand while living this other life just out of frame. And right behind the disgust, revenge mode. Fully, completely, beautifully activated. The shower turned off. She heard him moving around in the bathroom, getting dressed. Doing whatever he did every morning without a single care in the world. Completely unaware that in the next room, his entire world was about to collapse. And here is the moment that shows you exactly what kind of woman she is. When he walked out of that bathroom, she didn't say a word about what she knew. She didn't confront him. She didn't throw his phone at him. She didn't start yelling or crying or demanding answers. She smiled. She acted completely, totally, 100% normal, because she already had a plan. And she needed him calm and unsuspecting for it to work perfectly. Think about how much self-control that takes. She had just gotten off a phone call that shattered everything she thought she knew about her relationship. She was sitting on a secret that was burning a hole through her chest. And she had to sit there, look this man in the face, and act like everything was fine. Not because she was scared of him, not because she was unsure of herself, but because she was playing the long game. She was setting up the most perfectly timed reveal possible, and she needed him to walk straight into it without seeing it coming. That kind of composure. That's not weakness. That's strategy. That's power. They got ready together and headed downstairs. His family was already in the kitchen, the smell of breakfast filling the house, everyone cheerful and relaxed in that slow, comfortable Thanksgiving morning way. But before they went down, she did something quietly, something that nobody noticed. She brought her bags. Every single bag she had packed for this trip, she brought them all downstairs with her. Casually, like it was nothing, and she set them down in a spot where she could grab them quickly if she needed to, because she was leaving, and she wasn't coming back. They walked into the kitchen together. His family looked up and smiled. "Good morning. How did you sleep?" The kind of easy, natural small talk that happens in family homes on holiday weekends. She smiled back, and then she took a breath, and she said it. "I just found out your son has been cheating on me, so I won't be staying for breakfast or any future meals." Silence. Complete, total, suffocating silence. His family froze. You could probably hear a pin drop in that kitchen. Nobody knew what to say because nobody saw it coming. Not his parents. Not anyone else in that room. And him, he looked absolutely terrified because there was nothing he could do. There was no version of this where he could fix it. He couldn't pull her aside and spin a story. She was already picking up her bags. He couldn't make excuses to his family because she had already said the words out loud in front of all of them. He couldn't chase after her because they had driven separately, something that turned out to be one of the greatest pieces of luck in this entire story. She didn't wait for a response. She didn't need one. She didn't owe him a conversation. She didn't owe his family an explanation beyond what she had already said. She grabbed her bags, walked out the front door, got behind the wheel of her car, and drove away. Imagine being him in that moment, standing in his parents' kitchen on Thanksgiving morning. His girlfriend just walked out. His family is staring at him, and every single person in that room now knows exactly what he did. No amount of charm or smooth talking was going to fix that moment. That was a Thanksgiving his family was going to remember for a very, very long time. And she hadn't even gotten to the best part yet. She got on the road and started heading home. And for a few miles, maybe the adrenaline was enough. The satisfaction of that announcement, the look on his face, the stunned silence, it was all still fresh, and she could replay it in her mind like a highlight reel. But then the longer she drove, the more the feelings shifted. The adrenaline started to fade, and what replaced it was something slower and heavier, a deep, building anger. Not the kind of anger that makes you cry and shake, the kind of anger that makes you think, clearly, sharply, strategically. She started thinking about everything she had invested in this relationship. Her time, her energy, her emotions, her trust, things you can never fully get back no matter what. And then she started thinking about something a little more concrete, something she could actually get back. A few months earlier, a close friend of hers had gotten a new job in another state. Moving across the country. And with a cross-country move comes the very practical problem of what to do with all your furniture. You can't take everything. Some of it just has to go. Her friend had a full living room and dining room set, a couch, a coffee table, side tables, a dining room table, and a full set of chairs. Beautiful, functional, complete furniture. And rather than sell it or donate it to strangers, her friend had offered it to her. She had taken it, and she had given all of it to her boyfriend. Because she wanted his apartment to feel like a real home, because she cared about him, because that's what people do when they love someone, they invest in them. They give them things. They try to make their life better. He had accepted every single piece of that furniture. He had used it every day. He had probably sat on that couch and texted the other woman without a second thought about where it came from or who gave it to him. Well, she wanted it back. She picked up her phone while driving and called one of her closest friends. The kind of friend everybody needs in their life. The kind who picks up on the first ring, listens to the whole story, doesn't ask too many questions, and says yes before you even finish explaining what you need. She needed someone with a pickup truck. Her friend had a pickup truck. Her friend said yes. They made a plan to meet at his apartment, immediately. No delays, no second guessing, just two women with a mission and a truck, and absolutely nothing to lose. She still had the key he had given her. The key he had handed over as a sign of trust and intimacy. Here, you can come and go from my space, that's how much I trust you. She used it. She and her friend walked straight into his apartment, took one look at that living room and dining room, and got to work. The couch, gone. The coffee table, gone. Every single side table, gone. The full dining room table and every chair around it, gone. They moved fast and they moved thoroughly. Every piece of furniture that she had ever given him, every single item from that set, they loaded into the truck. Not a single piece was left behind. By the time they were done, the room was completely and totally empty. Bare floors, blank walls, not one stick of furniture remaining. Think about what it was going to feel like for him to walk into that apartment. He was already having the worst Thanksgiving of his life, standing in his parents' kitchen with his family staring at him after his girlfriend just announced to everyone that he was a cheater. He was going to have to sit through that entire day, answer questions he didn't want to answer, have conversations he didn't want to have, and then at the end of all of it, he was going to drive home. He was going to open the door to his apartment, And he was going to walk into an empty room. No couch to collapse onto, no table to sit at, nothing. Just the consequence of every single choice he had made. She got home, she sat down. And she did something that felt like closing the final chapter of a book that had taken up way too much of her shelf space. She blocked him, everywhere. Phone number, blocked. Every single social media platform, blocked. Every possible way he could reach her, every digital door he might try to walk through, shut, locked, and sealed. He no longer existed in her world. Not in her phone, not in her feed, not in her life. And in that silence, in that clean, clear absence of him, she felt something shift. The weight of it all started lifting. Because she hadn't just been cheated on and left quietly. She hadn't disappeared into her apartment to grieve alone while he went on living his life without consequence. She had made sure he felt every single bit of it. She had stood in front of his family and told the truth. She had walked out with her head high. She had reclaimed what was hers. And now she had drawn a clean, permanent line and stepped to the other side of it. But the story wasn't quite finished yet. Because there was still someone else in this situation who deserved acknowledgement. Someone who had also been lied to, also been deceived, also been used by the same man without knowing the full truth. The other woman. It would have been easy, and honestly, understandable, to be angry at her too. That's often the first instinct when you find out about cheating. You look at the other person, and you feel betrayal directed at them as well, even when they didn't actually do anything to you. But she didn't do that. She thought about what she had actually learned from that phone call. This woman hadn't known about her. She had been told he was single. She had been pursued by someone who presented himself as available, and she had believed him because why wouldn't she? There was no reason not to. She was a victim in this too, just a different kind. So she reached out. They met for coffee. And what happened at that coffee meeting is honestly one of the most human, most wholesome, most unexpectedly beautiful parts of this entire story. Two women sat across from each other, two women who had never met, who only knew each other as the other person in a man's double life, and they talked. They compared notes. They filled in each other's gaps. They gave each other the full picture that neither of them had been allowed to have before. And somewhere in the middle of all of that honesty, in that space where there were no more lies between them and nothing left to hide, something unexpected happened. They became friends, real friends. Not just two people who texted occasionally or followed each other online. Actual, genuine friends, connected by the shared experience of being deceived by someone who didn't deserve either of them. He had tried to keep two women in his life simultaneously by lying to both of them. Instead, he ended up with nothing, and the two of them ended up with each other. She said it best herself at the end of her post. Win-win, loser. And that right there is what makes this story so much more than just a revenge fantasy on the internet. Yes, the revenge is incredibly satisfying. The announcement at breakfast, flawless. The furniture pickup, iconic. The blocking on everything, clean and final. But what stays with you after this story isn't just the revenge. It's the clarity. It's the way she never lost herself in the anger. She felt everything she needed to feel, the devastation, the disgust, the fury, and then she channeled all of it into something purposeful and deliberate. She didn't beg. She didn't scream. She didn't send long emotional messages or wait by the phone hoping he'd explain himself. She handled it, on her own terms, in her own way, with remarkable precision and composure. And then she reached out to a stranger who had been hurt by the same person, and turned that pain into something positive. There are people in this world who, when life knocks them down, somehow manage to get back up more gracefully than they fell. She is one of those people. He lost a girlfriend, his furniture, his dignity in front of his whole family, and any chance of either woman ever thinking fondly of him again. She lost a cheater and gained a story worth telling, a friendship worth keeping, and the quiet, unshakable confidence of a woman who knows exactly what she's worth. And that is the real win here. If this story hit you the way it hit the rest of the internet, drop a comment below. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you've ever had your own moment of standing up for yourself when it would have been easier to stay quiet, I want to hear about it, because stories like this matter. Not just because they're satisfying, but because they remind us that we are always allowed to choose ourselves. See you in the next one.